Okay. One of those things you've got to do, you've got to go on all of them. So although we're on free platforms, my people, we are on 5 different devices, not 5, 3 different devices. Can't even count. So you just need to bear with for just a second whilst we are finishing off all of these little cherubs, and then I'm going to be with you. Because you guys here on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So, welcome. I'm now setting up bollocks. Instagram. That's you lot. And then the final one is Tickety Talk. And then we're going to jump into the session. And trying to do it on so many different things makes me realise my multitasking skills are not strong. I don't think multitasking is a thing, innit? Right, finally, I managed to get up. LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, you're on this camera. Instagram, you're on this camera. And then TikTok, this is on the wrong camera. Bollocks. We're doing so well then, people. Hang on, we've got to turn this camera around, otherwise it's staring. There we go, flip the camera. There we go. Right, we're good. So we can hop into it now. Anyone who's ever done this before? My God, it's a lot to deal with. Okay. Keir, hey up, geezer. Good to see you. Lockfit, hello, mate. Reese, Paul, good to see you. And then TikTok's just warming up now. So basically, when you see me look around at different cameras, main reason being so much going on at the moment. We wanted to be at the stage that we can really level up this year on the amount of help that we're giving. And I'm not selfish from it. I genuinely know that the more people we help, the more people will then probably funnel through to us at conversations to clients or to tuster.co.uk. And we'll get more clients from it. But actually, we're also going to be able to help more people uncover it. So I had a conversation the other day, and it was, by the way, the lighting's a little bit messed up today. This one looks super bright. This one looks really glary. And this one looks a bit blurry. So we're in. So the whole point we're going to be here today, I'm loaded up with my branded water. We've got a coffee. I put a lot of Q&As out on Insta. I think we've got about 25, 30 questions that have been added. My glasses are foggy. But this is a genuine straight up Q&A today. So if you've got a business, let me know what industry you're in. If you're a salesperson, let me know what your industry you're in. If you've got questions that you want to ask, straight up questions, just pop them in the chat. And I'm literally going to be going through the questions in the best way we can. I've also got a few different frameworks that we're using now within the business, which actually is making life a hell of a lot easier. And that's going to just really make everything just better for you guys as well. Because what I try to do is be a really good student. I want to be at the stage of helping people through the changes and mistakes that we put into it. So if you put chats in there, Lee, Ryan, hi, Zach, hi, Stone Business, hi, Big Boy Ben, Craig, hi, Stonebrook, hi, and then Ghost Air, Keir, hello, hello, hello. So I'm going to go through a couple of questions on here, but stick with me because I do genuinely want to see how many people we can help. And so even if I'm not coming into your thing, remind me after about 5 minutes because I'll come down to them. Because everything we're doing now is completely different than it was even 3 years ago. I mean this truly. Like everything's just changing. And it's changing at such a rapid pace now that I want to try and help more people overcome some of the hurdles that we've got. Some of the questions that we've been thrown our way already are some of the simple stuff. And other people that are out there have thrown me some a little bit more down the rabbit hole stuff that's in there. But if you're on the live now and you've got a specific question, write it into what you're trying to actually achieve. You have to bear in mind when you're doing this stuff on lives, I haven't got a good context on who you are, what you do. So for example, if it's we do loads of like solar trades, one-man band solar company at 20%, want to get higher conversions, stuck on objections, whatever it is, pop it all in there and let's get some things on the go, because if I can help, I will help. And I genuinely mean this. If it's something in the conversation, you put a question and I don't know, I will not try and give you bullshit fake advice that I don't know the answer to, because I genuinely want you to come out of this with something that's going to make a difference. So you guys, TikTok, Insta, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, pop your stuff in there. Ghost Air, small business, one-man band doing teamwear, workwear. Nice. Keir, nice to have you here. We've got Paul, commercial finance, business loans. Nice. I've got to try and lean right forward because of these cameras. Leeds, got leads for loft conversions. Cool business. Reese, coach service. Stonebrook properties to get leads. Cool. Give me some specifics on what you guys are doing now. For example, if you're doing a certain thing now, but it ain't working, but you're trying to improve it, or if you're trying to get a brand new plan of what you are trying to actually get into. Right, so I'm going to give you a couple of these questions that people have got in it. We've got about 30 on the background, so I'll do a couple, and then I'm going to jump into you guys, and then we'll sort of go from there. So one of the big things we get a lot at the moment is when people are getting stuck with the objection side of what you're doing. So let's forget about the scaling side at the moment. Let's actually focus in a little bit more on the actual selling side of what you are trying to achieve. So one of the biggest things for the vast majority of people we are seeing time and time again, it's getting people off center to a position that they can actually make a decision. And the problem that we've got is the vast majority of the time we're getting focused on having good conversations that we feel will automatically lead us somewhere. And I'm sorry to say, they really don't. For the vast majority of the time, just because someone's having a good conversation and they're making all the right noises doesn't mean that conversation is going to convert into a deal. One of the big things we've seen at the moment with a couple of companies we're working with, one in the education space, they're selling over the phones after a Zoom, great business. And another one in a solar company. The solar company were converting SAT appointments at about 15%. Now, one of the first things we had to get people to do was actually be prepared to lose some deals. And let me give you an overview of exactly what I mean. The two big problems that you have is most people are so focused on not losing a deal. They just talk about buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me. It's a selfish part of the way a lot of people work. Actually, before someone should make a decision to buy from you, they should get to the stage that they are sold on they are going to move forward, irrelevant of whether it is with you or not. And I say that again. Instead of trying to focus on selling your product or service, you need to get in a habit of getting the person you're talking to be sold on making a change. I like to think, instead of thinking about salespeople, think about becoming a change maker. You're someone who activates people into making a change. Because what we actually end up doing, and this is what I used to do all the time, was I would focus on people trying to buy from me. Now, at any time I'm talking about this guy, I'm not talking about the prospect in front of me. I'm not talking about the person in front of me and the pain in front of me that person in front of me has. They've got a problem. Lee, I'll definitely come around to you on that. So what we want to be able to focus in on is when we're in the conversation, the first goal in the sale should be to get enough curiosity and build enough pain, anguish, misery, whatever it's going to be, that the person that you're talking to makes a decision to, I'm just going to pull this closer a bit. to give up on the existing plan that they are working on. So, for example, when we're working with the solar companies, the goal isn't to get them to spy into you straight away. The first goal out there should be about getting them sold on making a decision to move forward with the product or the service. So, for example, solar, getting them sold on solar before you're worried about getting sold on you. And one of the big changes we had with this company, they were doing about 15%, but now it's 60% conversion. So I don't want you to think about a 15% to 60% being a 45% increase. It's not. It's a 300% increase in their revenue. And one of the first key areas was getting people sold on the industry and making the change, even if it meant that they lost the deal, because the whole focus is on the other person getting the pain that they have removed. It should just be about helping the person move forward. I'm going to turn the brightness down on this one a little bit because it is proper glary in my office today. So what I want you to think about is this. If someone joins you for a while in a conversation, in a meeting, if it's face-to-face, if it's on phone, or if it's on Zoom, make sure that for the time that they're with you, whether they buy from you or not, they are on a better position after the conversation to move forward. I had a client last week, or a lead, but we were really close to getting into a really big company. We got them really sold on making a change, and they've gone with a competitor. Do you know we win 20 deals for everyone we might lose in that way? But that company, even though they haven't worked with us, they've referred 2 people to us. Those 2 people wouldn't have come to us if we hadn't done such a good job with those people. And actually, your job is to solve problems. And ideally, the problem they choose to solve, they solve it with you. But if that person leaves and they do go to the competition and they still get their problem fixed and you helped on that, it's good. I'm not a big believer in this old school BS about buy or die. Like, you want to make sure you're helping people. And especially if you've got a business now that is very much focused in the B2C arena, in a very competitive place, the best thing you can do is focus in on helping that person. So many people now, solar, trades, all those ones, they put a quote out there, they'll fill their details out online, they get a phone call, and they'll get a phone call by 5, 10 different people in the space of 24 hours. And everyone's just trying to hammer people with a quote, a quote, a quote, a quote, a quote. But before that person even gets a quote, they should be at the stage that they are sold on fixing the problem. And that should be the focus. We should be at the stage when we're talking to people now, is you want to imagine in the timeline of where they are in their life, on how sold are they to fix the problem that they have. And a lot of people, they want the problem gone, but they have got no clue how to actually get there. And so people end up with what we class a lot of the time of decision fatigue. And they get used to holding this problem in their life, and they get used to looking and not making a decision. And it really messes up where people are going. So if I've got one bit of advice for you guys, when you come out of this today, for the person who put that question in earlier, instead of focusing just selling your product, focus on being the person it is selling on the industry first, the problem first, so that that person will move forward. Because the more people you can move through the sales process, the more people are going to get fixed. And do you know how many times that I talk to companies out there and people out there that the people that they are talking to doesn't make a decision with anyone because they get so overwhelmed and they have such a high level of decision fatigue. So they have all these conversations and it doesn't go anywhere. It's far better to make sure that that person moves forward, even if it isn't with you, because at least they're getting the help they need. Right, I'm going to jump into a couple of questions on there. I saw one here. Let me just scroll up. So if you're joining me part of the way through, by the way, so we've got Instagram, We've got TikTok. Hello, everyone. And then we've got YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So if you're looking at different cameras, you'll understand why. Right, pop questions in. We'll get into it. Okay, Lee Murphy. Hello, mate. Free in a sales team. 14 build teams. We're looking to get better at conversions on leads. Okay, Lee, give me your industry, my man. Did you tell me? Oh, sorry, loft conversions. Okay, so are you a lead agency for loft conversions, or is it a loft conversion business and you guys are trying to scale it out? Hey, Gregor, good to see you. I'm just going to wait to see if Lee is still here. Loft conversion industries and stuff like that. These trades organizations, I tell you what, they are such good businesses when you can get things moving in the right way. It's what we fell into. We were working in 19 industries, but maybe Lee's left. I hope not. Lee, if you're still here, mate, give me a bit of a breakdown on it. I'll talk about this anyway if we talk about conversions. So this will be helpful for any businesses. So for you guys that are with me now, the majority of the business that we work with sell on either a 1 or a 2 call close. Typically, it's a 2 call close. So they get lead in, appointment setting, closing, whether that's face-to-face, whether that's over the phone, whether that's Zoom call, whatever it might be. Now, the big thing that we have... Oh, okay. Sorry, Lee's just come back to you. So he's got a loft conversion business. So Lee Murphy has got a loft conversion business, free sales team, 14 build teams, looking to get better at conversions on leads. Okay. So this is what I'm going to I'll give you the breakdown of this. So whatever industry you're in, if you're in a trade organization, if you're in a coaching space, whatever it might be, if you're at a stage now, but you have paid ads or organic, which is typically what's going to happen, paid or organic. And that's going to come into an appointment setting stage. And then that's going to go into the close. The big problem that we find is the deals that get lost. It's not because they didn't like you or the business. It's actually overwhelm as much as anything else. They don't know what things really cost. They don't know what information they need. They start hunting around at 100 different companies. They get all these quotes. Like I said a minute ago, they end up with decision fatigue. So what you want to be able to do is break down the client journey of what you actually have. So you end up having your lead in, your appointment setting stage, then you have the closing stage. The majority of your objections come from when you are in the objection stage at the end of the pitch. That's because the focus is on objection handling rather than objection prevention. And actually, we live in probably one of the best times for these types of organizations. Because if we go back in time, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you had to meet someone at a front door, say hi. That was the first time he'd seen you. But throughout this client journey, from when the lead comes in, utilizing explainer videos, animated videos, voice notes, and video throughout the client journey that talk to all the problems that happen at the tail end of your pitch is one of the easiest ways to get conversions up. Solar lofts will become very similar to what we do with solar and heating and plumbing and garden rooms and all those stuff. What happens is they go through all this conversation and they get to the end and they're like, yeah, cool. We'll catch up with you soon. We'll have another meeting. Send us a quote, blah, blah, blah. What we want to be at the stage is the appointment setting stage. And what happens before that and after it is far more seamless. So what I want you to think about is this. If I went through your client journey now, how quick am I getting contacted? So speed for lead, one area. But what happened after I submitted an inquiry to actually someone getting on a call for the speed to lead? Something very simple you can do, utilizing videos after someone has submitted an inquiry, but it pops up and it explains exactly what's going to happen. And you talk about not just the loft conversions, but you talk about what they're probably thinking, what they're probably feeling, what some of the myths, what are some of the misconceptions, what are some of the fears that person watching that video right there is probably feeling. And you have that in a 2 to 3 minute animated explaining video. Now, by the time your appointment setter gets onto the call, they've had a visual reference point that will talk to them about the hurdles and problems they've got. But also the appointment setter can talk about what areas and identify on that call more of information with where that person is within the buying journey. And what needs to happen, and this is for anyone out there, for someone to hand over money to buy your product or service, typically they're going to have a change in one of 4 areas. So they might need a change in knowledge. They might need to have a change in their misconceptions. They might need to have a change in their beliefs. So they're maybe your main 3. But then on top of that, you might be looking at the fact they might need to overcome a fear as well. So what your appointment setter is doing, think of it like a locational pin. Your appointment setter is not just qualifying them for you in your business. It's actually to find out where in the client journey they are right now. What are their misconceptions? What are their fears? What are their beliefs? What's their knowledge? And what triggers or what changes need to happen with those people to move things forward? So what you end up doing is a lot of people get on a call, they'll have their appointment setting stage, and it's very much, are you a homeowner? Do you have a budget? When you're looking to get it done, blah, 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 3-4 minutes, boom, book them in, off we go. But I want you to imagine like a thermometer of interest. For a huge amount of people, what will happen is they'll have a very low degree of interest at the start. You'll do a very small conversation and the appointment setting, and then you expect all this work to happen at the closing stage. And what happens is that ends up feeling like such a huge mountain for the person to have in the conversation. They feel under pressure. They will feel an increase, a level of resistance around making a decision because you've done so much in that 1-hour meeting of what you're actually doing. Someone just asked who I'm talking to. So I'm talking to TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook all at one time. Enjoy the moment. And so then what we need to be able to focus in on, Lee, is when they're coming in, we need to understand the misconceptions, fears, beliefs, and knowledge that they have. In the appointment setting stage, we want to overcome whichever that trigger is. So let's say it's a misconception on whether loft conversions are going to add the value that they really expect for their house. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the fact they've got a fear because Joni down the road had a loft conversion and the guy screwed them over. Maybe there's a belief that all loft conversion companies are terrible. It doesn't mean that they're true, but we have to understand what are their misconceptions, their fears, and their knowledge and their beliefs to help give them new perspectives in the appointment setting stage, so that when the next part happens, the face-to-face and quote, you have filled in that gap. And then the gap between the appointment setting stage and the closing stage, you fill that with further videos, further content that's going to help convert that person's belief, misconception, fear, and knowledge to go from being an interested party, but actually into being a potential buyer. And what that's going to do is raise the thermometer of interest and get them to a stage where they're actually sold on the idea of moving forward. And then it becomes a goal of, is it you, Lee, or is it a competitor of yours? And all of that should be what we're aiming to do within our client journey. Thank you, by the way, for everyone who's been dropping in. It's great seeing some people in it. I can't read all names. Matt, Rob, Gents, RG Hansen. And we've got Jordan, and I can't read all the names. Not Golf Life. Can't read a load of them. And then we've got people on LinkedIn. It doesn't show me all your names on there either. So hopefully that's helped, my man. Lee, if you want to know a little bit more, drop me a DM in there. Or by the way, you guys can just go to, if you want to get a video on this stuff, conversations2clients.com. You can go there and there's a breakdown and there's another video that you guys can actually watch to see a little bit more on what we've been doing with these companies if you find it of use. Okay, Lee, I hope that helped, my man. I'm looking for another question. Stonebrook Estates. So he said, so offer a new way to change to So offer a new way to change to new problem solving to clients. Is that what you mean? To a degree, yes. Like we just said with Liebherr, a lot of people, when they're getting in and putting an inquiry in, they hold on to misconceptions, fears, beliefs, hurdles, or barriers, which they're not often even aware of, are going to hold them back. So we've got to work out where are they in that location point, and then work out how to actually move that person forward from that point. And then that's when you're offering a different perspective. Now, one of the easiest ways that you can genuinely start to sell more business is to make sure that you are implementing the use of storytelling and or analogies. Now, the reason I bring this up now is whatever business you've got and whatever industry you've got, if we just admit for a moment that when people are getting into conversations with us, they're at the stage where they've got a misconception, a fear, a barrier, a hurdle. We have to acknowledge the fact that a lot of the time out there, what they actually need to be able to go off and do is have a conversation that lowers the level of resistance within their thoughts. And the easiest way to do that is through storytelling and through analogies. So, for example, if we talk about what I do in my business, we do sales training. We build out systems. We'll take a business from 15% revenue to 60% revenue. Some businesses will even give them a guarantee behind it. Now, I can talk about all that stuff, but actually, if I give someone a story instead, or an analogy. So say, for example, it's a bit like having a Formula One racing team. You've got two parts to the race team. You've got the vehicle and then you've got the driver. Now, you could put the best driver in the world into a vehicle. If a vehicle isn't performing, if it's got one flat tire, it doesn't sound like a lot, but in a race car, that would cause a problem. If the lead flow, the fuel that's coming into the business isn't set up in the right way, it's not going to perform in the engine. If a chassis is wobbly, it's not going to work. That's going to be your systems. But on the flip side, you can have an amazing vehicle, but actually, if the driver doesn't know how to get the best out of that vehicle, they're likely to crash as well. And what we do is come in and we look at both the vehicle and the driver. We find out what the current performance is. We work out where the flaws are, where the hurdles are by putting it on the ramps, and we look underneath it. We do a full diagnosis, and then we make the improvements based on the vehicle you've got and the driver that you've got. And that's why we get faster increases than the majority of our competition. Now, when we're having conversations like that, it makes it easier for the person that's heard different things, thought about different things, looked into sales training for, looked at systems, hired marketing companies, for us to differentiate just slightly, just enough for that person in their brain to have a perspective shift or a belief shift or a misconception shift or overcome a fear to move to the next step. And this is why you need to go out and have the better conversations with people, but you also need to start looking from your client or your prospect's point of view. So this is why it's so important, whether you're here on TikTok, whether you're here with us on Insta, whether you're here on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. One of the easiest ways to improve what you're doing around sales is to lose your ego and go in as a potential prospect through your own Instagram, your own advert, your own funnel, your own website. And forget the fact that you worked really hard on it, because no one cares. And forget the fact that you're really trustworthy, because they don't know that. Forget all the things that you just take for granted. And you wipe the slate clean and imagine for a moment that you never knew who this person was or what it was. What perspective or what perception do you get by going through your own website? Try and purposely find flaws. Maybe that's from one of 5 areas. We talk about the scale method all the time. And our scale method is our 5-point process for within the sales process. So S is for sourcing high quality leads. That's one primary category. C is converting leads to appointments. That's another category. A is aligning and closing. That's another category. L is leveraging follow-up. That's another category. And then E is expanding your revenue. It's another category. Now, inside of each of those 5 areas, there's between 10 and 15 different mini chapters, mini sections inside of each category that we look at. And we want to understand from the basic stuff like lead, speed to lead, contact, intro, qualification, all that stuff, down through automations, emails, perspective shifts, fear overcoming, all of these other areas for each of those. But if you take on average 10, let's say there is 10, and you've got 5 areas, that's 50 points already, but typically half of those aren't being as effective. But then in between each one of those, SCALE, you've actually got all the emails, all the automations, all the video side. That in each midsection could be another 3 to 5 points. So suddenly we end up with around 80 to 100 single areas within the client journey where you can just lose one single prospect pretty easily. So whether you're sat there now on TikTok, whether you're sat there on Instagram, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, when was the last time you went through all of those stages, all of those points with a clear mind and an open perspective on how could this be made better? And then the next question is, how could someone misunderstand what we are actually talking about right now? And this leads me into one of the easiest ways that a lot of you can go and fix up and get more revenue in the business. And it's genuinely stop trying to sell in a way that you like to buy. Because a lot of people out there, they sell in the way they like to buy, but that's not actually how the majority of their prospects actually want to move forward. And it's one of the big things we teach. Right, we're going to jump into some more questions. So if you've got questions within the chat, Jord Hep's asking another question. Hang on 2 seconds. Jord Hep. Who am I talking to? Already said. Can you stop for a second and answer my question? You sound a little bit demanding, Jord. Yeah, but how many people is that? It varies all the time, Jordan. So if we go back 15 minutes ago, this TikTok and just one here had 58 people in it. Then it dropped down to 0. Then it went to 25. That's the way TikTok works. And then Instagram is, again, different engine. Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube won't show me because that goes through a third-party one called StreamYard. But we had around 350 people that were invited to the LinkedIn one. And I think we had 48 people that were attending it. So that gives you a little bit of perspective. And then on top of that, this training then gets recorded and it gets sent out to a whole of our CRM, which then watching this back now could be anywhere between 800, 900 people. Hopefully that answers your question, mate. So there we go. And I think that's all of those. Oh, I can't see what the other questions are. Someone says, not got life. You never got back to me. I've got no idea you are, I'm afraid. When you guys are on chats, by the way, if you go into a room and you don't have a normal name, business, explanation, it's very hard for someone to know who you are and what you're actually doing. Okay, so that's all those ones up. Lee, this is being recorded, but yeah, get in touch because if you've got the loft conversion business, you could just go to, if you want to do this, becomeyourpotential.info. If you go to becomeyourpotential.info, there's a 9-minute video that just shows literally what we just spoke about on this for you and your business on how that can work. Hopefully that helps you. Okay, cool. Going to hop into another question. Simple one here. How many times should you actually follow up before giving up? Okay, so when we're talking about sales, saying sales is like saying sports. There are a huge amount of similarities in different sports. There's a huge amount of variables in different sports. And it's exactly the same in sales and exactly the same in business. So in sales, for example, we've got inbound, you've got outbound. We've got B2B, we've got B2C. You've got other things like residential, you've got commercial, right? We've got low ticket, we've got high ticket. You've got businesses that sell on a 1 call, 2 call, 3 call close. You've got businesses that work on quotes. You've got people that sell on the phone, face-to-face, Zoom. All of these are different variables for the way and the rules of how you sell. And they'll all have slightly different changes based on what you're trying to do. Oh, by the way, Instagram, you guys, TikTok, you're about to go, by the way, because it's got 1% on the battery. I don't know why. So sorry, TikTok. If you want to go and join it, have to go to Instagram or one of the others. There you go. Failure there for me, guys. We had 1% battery life on that one. Okay, so we will carry on all the same. So yeah, we want to be at the stage with everything that we're doing at the moment is we need to work out what are the rules of engagement for my industry, for what you're selling and what you're actually trying to move forward. This is why we love the industries for the trade, solar, garden rooms, conversion, loft conversions would be a great one. We love the appointment setting to closing ratio, especially for B2C or residential. And the reason being is you're dealing directly with the decision maker. Now, if you're dealing in a larger organization that's got a board of directors and they've got all these heads of departments and all the other stuff, the deal could be worth 5-10 times more. But the problem that you have is there are so many people of influence and so many people of decision making that it's hard to know where the deal actually lies, because everyone thinks they're a decision maker and no one wants to think they're just as a person of influence. But actually being a person of influence is really important. And you've got to be able to understand that. So actually, when you're going through the follow-up process, you have to be able to identify, for the amount of follow-up that you do, what needs to happen at each stage and what are the rules for that point. Is there a certain amount of times that you can't contact someone? Is there a certain amount of times that a certain amount of potential people as a decision maker? Is there a certain way that they normally buy? And actually, a lot of businesses have decided to try and push the way they sell into their industry, either because that's the way that everyone else has always done it, or that's the way that they like to sell. But actually, we've got to identify what are the barriers and the hurdles. So for a lot of the solar companies, a lot of those will close at 15-20%. And a lot of them out there sell in a way because they are scared to sell differently. And that's okay. But actually, it holds them back because what they think everyone needs is just more quotes. But the stats actually show us that, yeah, quoting can be good if you do it the way we do it, because we're utilizing some really clever stuff. But actually, it should be done in a way where you're identifying pain points and fixing solutions with people that want the solution to be fixed, not just blindly having conversations and then sending out a quote and then you're following up for 3 months, because all that happens was it increases the level of resistance that the person has. And that's the problem we actually have. It's not actually about how much time that you follow up. It's about how effective are you in the follow-up, and is each time that you're having a follow-up engagement actually moving the needle? Because for the vast majority of businesses, it's really not. For the vast majority of people out there, when they're actually following up, all they're doing is, in the nicest way, begging. They're hoping that the person that they're talking to has magically made a new decision, that they have magically moved the thing forward. And you're just doing it on a hope and a prayer. And the more that that goes on, the more that the other person doesn't value you as an authority and as an expert in what you do. And they get to the feeling that you need the business more than they want to give you the business. And they become less frequent, less engaged. And the thermometer of interest just drops down more and more and more. So then the goal has to be, it's not about how much you follow up, but every engagement of follow up, whether it's 1 or 3, whatever it is, every time your job is actually to elevate the thermometer of interest from where they are at the start of the call to the stage of activation. So think of it like this. Let's imagine that the thermometer of interest needs to hit 85 degrees for the person to buy. And let's say in your sales process at the moment, you're doing a really good job and you get them up to 76 degrees. The way that a 76-degree temperature thermometer of interest person is going to act is pretty much the same as someone as 85. It all sounds good. It all looks great. Da, 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 da. But actually, there's a big part missing. The stuff that actually turns them from being a prospect into being a buyer. So your job on that phone call, if you're doing like a lot of people do at 76 degrees, hey, John, just checking in, just following up. Have you guys got it all moving forward? We're ready to go. Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't help. What you've got to do in that conversation is follow up and engage in a way that actually is going to elevate it from the 76 degrees up to past 85 degrees of that temperature of where they need to be at to buy. And this is what you guys should be focused on in every single engagement. What does this person need from me to actually move forward? Get out of the habit of trying to beg deals. Okay, right. I hope that helps. Anyone in the chat, by the way, you guys are here on Insta, hello. Facebook, hello. LinkedIn, hello. YouTube, hello. Any questions you've got, sales, business, whatever, pop them in the chat. It's going to jump into a couple more from here. Someone else has asked a question on here. How do you stop taking objections personally? It's very easy to say, well, don't worry about it. Shrug it off. It's all right. And that is normal. And if things are going well in life, it's very easy to be that way. But actually, if you're in a bit of a rut, it can be quite hard. But what I want you to do, and I want you to have a perspective shift on this. If you're taking objections personally, you're more focused on how it impacted you rather than the impact you were trying to give them. It makes a massive difference. And actually, at any point that you didn't get the deal, they gave you objections and you couldn't get past it, that was on you and your skill level or your competency or your execution. Actually, did that person leave the conversation with you glad they had the conversation with you? Because if they gave you an objection and hung up on you and hated you, then actually you made their day worse. That shouldn't be taken personally, but that shouldn't be something you're at. You should be at a stage at any time someone's getting off a call with you, but actually you move that conversation forward through changing beliefs, playing misconceptions, knowledge, overcome fears, help elevate their awareness to fixing things. And actually, when you start doing that, it's far easier to not take things personally within the objection handling side. It's genuine what I feel. And I really want everyone out there to start realizing when you're going out and you are asking people to make a buying decision, there's going to be a level of discomfort in the conversation. Like, I'll give you an example. No one enjoys paying me. No one does. Like, it sounds bizarre, right? But Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, no one enjoys paying us. No one's like, oh my God, I can't wait to pay whatever, 7 grand, 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand for his help. Now, why is that? Because they're not going to get the result until after they've paid. And what actually people are looking for is certainty. Now, what you have to recognize, and this is why objections come up, is for a huge amount of people that are out there at the minute, they are wanting 110% certainty before they make a buying decision. And this is why they end up in this loop continuously of researching calls, videos, quotes, because they're hoping that this quote's magically going to give them the certainty that they're looking for. But actually, the vast majority of us, we don't actually feel, I'll come around to these questions in a sec, by the way, feel free to put more in the chat. Most people out there, when we make a buying decision, we're not 100% certain. I booked a holiday a couple of months ago. I'm not 100% certain on it. Like, the weather could go wrong and this could go wrong and the hotel might not be as good. And there's loads of things that could go wrong, but I'm not 100% certain on. And I won't have that confidence until I've eaten in the restaurant, I've gone to the room and I've slept in the bed and all the other stuff. But I'm not looking for that to be it. I actually look for what's the worst case scenario. Is the worst case scenario more than what is it manageable? Am I happy with it? Whatever I believe the worst case scenario to be, is that greater than the cost? And if a holiday was X amount of thousands of pounds, if you booked a holiday for think of this. Let's say you're going to buy a car. Let's say you're going to buy a car and it's 30 grand and you can buy it for 20. The worst case scenario is you could buy a 30 grand car for 20 grand, drive for a few months, sell it, make money. But if it's a 30 grand car and I'm not sure if it's worth 28 or 32, and I might want to sell it in a few months, I'm going to have more hurdles and objections about stuff. Because the worst case scenario isn't a surefire victory. So what you need to start thinking about is, if your prospects are hunting for 110% certainty before they buy, your responsibility is to help them make a perspective shift and get different understandings, different ideas, different viewpoints, where they realize that the worst case scenario is far better to move forward with you than it would be to stay where they are right now. And a lot of people get caught up on the product. The product might help them get the belief and the certainty, but actually the mindset of where they're at makes a massive, massive, massive difference. I'll come around to these other questions in a second. If you got any more questions, pop them in the chat. So one of the things I want most people to think about, every single time when you open your mouth on a phone call, face-to-face meeting, whatever it is, one of two things happens. You are increasing or reducing resistance of the sale, and you're increasing or you're reducing the flow of the sale. The goal is to reduce resistance and increase the flow. What a lot of people are doing, not knowingly, is increasing resistance and reducing the flow by the way they say things and what they're saying. And I'll give you a prime example of this. Our tonality doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a wizard, but you have to recognize that the way we say things, our intentions and what we intended to say doesn't always come across in the way we acted. And your intentions can be amazing, but your actions might not be relayed in a way that actually ruins where you're going. So if I'll give you a simple phrase. If I said, I never told you to kill him, it's a very simple phrase. I never told you to kill him. You'll get context. I never told you to kill him. But if I say, I never told you to kill him, it implies something completely different. If I say, I never told you to kill him, if I never told you to kill him, by changing just the tone in one word, the different context and implied intent of the conversation changes. So what happens is, with a lot of us in conversations, we say one thing with the intention of it being good and helpful, but without realizing every time you're doing that one thing, you're doing it slightly wrong, and it increases the level of resistance and it reduces the level of flow and it moves you further away from deals. And this is why people end up thinking, oh, I want to wait, I'm not quite sure, blah, blah, blah. And it puts us in the back foot. It really, really does. Okay, so I'm going to jump into these questions on here. So LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Got to put questions in the chat. You can. I'm going to come around to these on here a bit more as well. Boogle. I can't read what it says. I'm too far away from my actual screen. Is there a time when you think I'm wasting my time and never going to buy and you walk away? To a degree, yes. But you've got to be prepared to let go of deals. But the deal should be, does this person genuinely want my help? Or is it they're caught up on a belief, a misconception, a fear or a barrier, knowledge that I can help them with? We use a lot of stuff at the moment with our follow-up process around podcasts to gain interest. We'll send videos, but we don't just blindly send all this stuff to people. We'll actually have a conversation and be like, hey, if I could X, Y, Z, would you even care about it? If I was going to da-da-da-da-da, would you even want to see it? If I could show you how to da-da-da, would you even want to know about it? And if they're like, no, then that might be the point where we cut ties. But if they're like, yeah, no, I'd watch it. Okay, cool. Let me do this. And then I set the next steps and go through. So it depends where you're at. Just hammering a lead just because you've got a lead is pointless. RJ Ranson. Hello, mate. Do you think salespeople should be bonus driven? Great question. Naturally Bonus is only achieved if margins are hit. Should it be a job or sales by the month? Okay, go back to what we said earlier about saying sales is like saying sports. 100% salespeople should be bonus driven. You should make sure that you're training people in a way that they're ethically selling, and actually the longevity and the success of the business and the clients move forward. So, for example, with my team, we've got people that they get paid based on a qualified appointment for our appointment setters. So they get paid far more than they would with someone else, but for a qualified appointment setter that actually meets certain parameters. That means there's not a high risk to the business, but it also means if the staff are doing what they should be doing, make a hell of a lot more of doing this than they would somewhere else. Same with the closing stage. You could be at the closing stage where you're actually having bonuses, commissions, whatever that might be, based on the success of the clients. It's not just about getting the deal that makes a big difference. Hopefully that helps. Reach out. More than happy to help. Oh, you put no one in. Sorry. Also, would you focus on Meta and Google ads or put money in SEO? Okay. I'm not sure what industry you're in, so I don't know. But I'll give you a prime example. When you think about businesses like solar and other areas out there, think about when are people being activated. The problem with a lot of businesses, and this is why having sales skills really helps and a good client journey. What a lot of people do, hi Tom, what a lot of people do is they focus on, I want to get leads that are ready to buy now. Oh, okay, solar, amazing, perfect, get in touch. They focus on, I want leads that are ready to buy now. Now, a lot of people are not at that level of thermometer of interest for ready to buy now. Actually, what you want to be at the stage of is getting people who've got a base level of interest, and then having people that will make the calls that will build interest, that will stoke the fire. One of my clients, they're based out in Hertfordshire. One of the big turnarounds we've had for them was their close rate was all right. They were closing 35, 40%. They're doing 55 now. Amazing. But they're already doing 35, 40%. What was letting them down was their show up rate and how many bookings they would get out of 50 leads. And actually, by fixing that part, they got to the stage that if they spoke to a lead for more than a minute, 74%, 72 or 74%, 74%, I think it was, would turn into an appointment. They massively got rid of a huge amount of their stuff. So for them, it was about names and numbers from a Meta ad on a lead form that was easy to get when they'd hit the phone, automations and all the other stuff. SEO, I think people on SEO have far more intention, but I think you're also battling against people. I think for a lot of solar companies at the moment, just having names and numbers is enough. Because if you've got someone who's going to hit the phones consistently, highly trained, know what to say, to have a 8 to 10 minute call where they really build out their level of interest, my gosh, it makes such a difference. Sheffield Renewables, prime example for this. Jay was doing really well. He'll admit to his own side. They were doing 30 grand a month, if that, converting at 15%. Really not good. This was literally October. They're doing 60, 62% conversions. Record. They did 84 grand last week or something like that. So they're doing 3 months worth of work of sales in a week now. And he didn't build a big team. One appointment setter, but was really, really well trained, really, really good. That meant he could then focus on actually closing deals, all the automations, the follow-up, the nurture, the text, the video, the voice notes, all that stuff. Bang, 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 bang. In a way that felt good for the prospect. He actually said that in a conversation on Friday. He had a stinker on Wednesday. He had a stinker on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, crush. And a load of that was people were just getting drawn in. It wasn't just trying to quote away into business. Love to talk more. Again, anyone who's watching this, by the way, if you want to go to becomeyourpotential.info, there's like an 8-10 minute video. But literally, it's our work with me video. It's what you should use for stuff. It's so easy because you guys can go and watch that without any pressure of talking to someone. It gives you awareness. It gives you knowledge. It gives you understanding. Overcomes fears, misconceptions, beliefs, everything we spoke about. And that really helps them because then when people get into conversations with us, they actually have got a better idea of, wow, we want to work with them. It's just for hurdles. Okay, I'm going to jump on with these other questions on this one. So Instagram, nice to have you here. LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, anyone that was on TikTok. Sorry, my battery died. Okay. Do you need a CRM to scale, or is it overkill? Really, really good question. There has never been a better time to have an effective CRM without it costing a lot of money that actually will move you forward. And I'll give you a prime example. We were just talking about, hey, Will, I'll come around to that in a sec. CRMs are so important now because, so for example, what a lot of people will do is they will set up a CRM for free. They'll just randomly get ChatGPT to make an email sequence and text campaign. They'll bolt it into a CRM themselves and hope it works. But what you can do, so we have a guy that does all our tech stuff. We introduce him to loads of our clients, and they might spend 600 quid to work with him. They'll set up a Go High level. We'll build them the emails, the text, the video scripts. We build all that stuff, and then that bolts into a CRM. And then that's super effective because your whole thing's built out. Think of it like a chef building out a restaurant menu, and he's built out the decor, and he's built out this, and it's all aligned in the right way. When people walk in from a moment, they get a flow to the whole thing. And what a lot of people really struggle with is they think just because they've got a text or an email, oh, we send text. Okay, but is it effective? How many deals do you get? Where do those leads come from? Do they re-engage? And a lot of people don't know. So yes, having a CRM is super important because it can work 24/7. For example, I'm having my calls in the morning. We have about 60 touch points, and it's not overload. They'll happen over the space of 3-4 months. But they're all, if this happens, do this. If this doesn't happen, then this will happen. And then 3 days later, if this doesn't happen, this might happen. And then if this happens, this happens. That's a huge amount, which is really difficult to do if you're doing it all yourself. Okay, so Will C. Boyd. Hey, David, following from the States. Hello. What do you recommend in terms of hiring your first setter? Okay, great question. Comes down to two things. Have you effectively hired a setter before? I know loads of people that have hired salespeople, but not effectively. You've got to make it really appealing for them. Having a CRM of automations that work, really important. Having a training manual, really, really important. Having expectations, really important. Having a really good hiring process. And it doesn't have to be in depth. It doesn't have to be complicated. But actually finding the right person. So when people work with us on conversations to clients, go to conversationstoclients.com, you can see. Part of the thing that we do is we build out a hiring kit of literally who to look for, what you're looking for, what questions to ask them, how to find if they're a fit, and then the training manual, the pitch, the process, the objection handling their first 30, 60, 90 days. And they know all of that before they've even stepped into the door. What a lot of people do with salespeople, and I think they really get it wrong. We're literally going in a couple of minutes, by the way. So if you do want any details, go to becomeyourpotential.info or DM me or whatever. What they do is they're quick to hire, and they feel that a salesperson is just going to be like Rambo. It's just going to come and save the world. And they're not. A lot of times salespeople out there, they need structure and guidance and help and support and nurture to be able to move forward. It makes such a difference. And people will work to the level of your systems and your standards, not to their skill and not to their capacity. So actually, if you are prepared to, I say to people, get really good at sales, then hire, because you'll hire to a better standard. That's why with solar companies, for example, we'll teach, say it's a founder, we'll teach them to sell, and then within 6 weeks, get a setter in. They always hire a better setter because they've been on the phones doing the work for 6 weeks to get good for 6 weeks, and then get someone else in to replace, and then the standards stay high, which makes a big difference. Right, guys, I've got to go. Reach out if you need any help. Instagram, thanks for joining in. TikTok, you've gone already. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, good to have everyone on. Thank you ever so much. If we can be of any help to you, reach out. Becomeyourpotential.info, tuster.co.uk, or just drop me a DM, and the team will be more than happy to help. If you guys are in Solar Boy, come past. There is something which we do a bit different for solar and trades ones, where potentially we can offer an audit and a guarantee on revenue, because it's such a slam dunk. If you've got low conversions to 15, 20, 25%, it's really easy to get you there. Right, guys, see you soon. Have a good evening. Bye.